What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan, you are going to want to sit down for this one, because we have some major news breaking right now that could seriously change the trajectory of this team going forward. We are talking about Brandon Aubrey, the guy who has been absolutely automatic for the Dallas Cowboys, the guy who has shattered records, the guy who has been arguably the best kicker in the entire National Football League, and now reports are surfacing that he wants to get paid like it. And not just paid well, we are talking record-breaking money, the kind of contract that no kicker in NFL history has ever seen before. And here's the scary part for Cowboys fans. If Jerry Jones and the front office do not step up and make this happen, Brandon Aubrey could very well be suiting up for another team sooner than you think. So let's dive deep into this story, because there is a lot to unpack here. And I think this is one of the most fascinating contract situations we have seen in the NFL in a very long time. Now let me start by giving you some context here, because if you have not been paying close attention to what Brandon Aubrey has done over the past couple of seasons, you are truly missing out on something special. This guy came into the NFL with one of the most unique backgrounds we have ever seen for a kicker. He did not take the traditional route. He spent time playing professional soccer, he was in Major League Soccer, he played for FC Dallas, and then he made the transition to football and ended up with the Dallas Cowboys. And from the moment he stepped onto that field, he was different. He was not just a good kicker, he was a generational talent at the position. His leg strength is absolutely ridiculous, his accuracy has been off the charts, and he has consistently delivered in the biggest moments for this football team. In his time with the Cowboys, he has connected on field goals from distances that most kickers would not even attempt. He has been nailing 50-plus-yard field goals, like they are extra points. He set the record for the longest field goal in Dallas Cowboys history, and he has been one of the most reliable weapons on the entire roster. And I know some people might say, come on, it is just a kicker. How important can he really be? But if you have watched football for any amount of time, you know that kickers win and lose games, period. How many times have we seen a game come down to a last-second field goal? How many times have we seen a team lose a playoff game because their kicker could not get it done? It happens all the time. And that is exactly why having a guy like Brandon Aubrey is so incredibly valuable. So now let's get into the report that has everybody buzzing. According to multiple sources and reports that have been circulating, Brandon Aubrey and his representatives are looking for a contract that would make him the highest-paid kicker in NFL history. We are talking about a deal that would surpass what Justin Tucker has made, what Harrison Butker has earned, what any kicker has ever been paid in the history of this league. And honestly, when you look at what Aubrey has done on the field, can you really blame him? This guy has been arguably the best at his position in the entire league, and he wants to be compensated accordingly. That is how the NFL works. When you perform at an elite level, you expect to be paid at an elite level. And Brandon Aubrey has absolutely earned the right to ask for top dollar. The question now becomes whether or not the Dallas Cowboys are willing to pay it. And this is where things get really interesting, because we all know how Jerry Jones operates. Jerry Jones loves his money, Jerry Jones loves to negotiate, and Jerry Jones has a history of letting really good players walk away because he did not want to pay them what they were asking for. We have seen it happen time and time again with this franchise. Think about all the talented players who have left Dallas over the years because the front office refused to meet their contract demands. It has happened with defensive players, it has happened with offensive players, and now it could potentially happen with the best kicker this team has ever had. And the frustrating part for Cowboys fans is that this is a position where you absolutely cannot afford to downgrade. If you lose Brandon Aubrey and you bring in some average kicker off the street, you are going to feel that difference immediately. Every time your team is in a close game and you need a 52-yard field goal to win it, you are going to be sitting there thinking, Man, I wish we still had Aubrey. That is just the reality of the situation. Now, let me break down the financial side of this because I think it is important to understand just how much money we are potentially talking about here. The current highest paid kickers in the NFL are making somewhere in the range of $5 to $6 million per year on average. Justin Tucker signed a deal with the Baltimore Ravens that was considered groundbreaking at the time. Harrison Butker got a nice contract from the Kansas City Chiefs as well. But what Brandon Aubrey is reportedly looking for would blow those numbers out of the water. We are hearing that he could be looking for something in the range of $7 to $8 million per year, or possibly even more. Now I know that sounds like a lot of money for a kicker, and in the grand scheme of NFL contracts it is, but let me put this in perspective for you. Quarterbacks are making $50+ million a year now. Wide receivers are getting $30 million a year. Even running backs who everyone says are replaceable are getting paid $15 to $20 million a year. So is $7 or $8 million a year for the best kicker in football really that outrageous? I personally do not think it is. And I think the Cowboys would be making a massive mistake if they let this guy walk over what amounts to a relatively small percentage of the salary cap. But here is the thing, and this is what makes this situation so complicated for the Cowboys. Dallas already has a ton of money tied up in other players. They have massive contracts on the books for guys like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and several other high-profile players. The salary cap is a real thing in the NFL, and every dollar you spend on one player is a dollar you cannot spend on another. So when you are looking at paying a kicker record-breaking money, you have to weigh that against all the other needs on your roster. Do the Cowboys have holes that need to be filled? Absolutely they do. They need help on the offensive line, they could use more depth at several positions, and they have other players who are going to be looking for new contracts as well. So the front office has to balance all of these competing priorities and figure out where Brandon Aubrey fits into the big picture. And that is not an easy decision to make no matter how good he has been. Now, let me talk about the other side of this coin, because there are reportedly several teams around the league who would absolutely love to get their hands on Brandon Aubrey. If the Cowboys do not lock him up with a long-term deal, there are going to be teams lining up to throw money at this guy. And why wouldn't they? Every team in the NFL needs a reliable kicker, and there is nobody more reliable right now than Brandon Aubrey. Imagine if a team like the New York Jets or the Las Vegas Raiders or some other franchise that has been struggling at the kicker position swoops in and signs Aubrey to a massive deal. Cowboys fans would be absolutely devastated, and rightfully so. You do not let a weapon like that just walk out the door, especially when you know how hard it is to find a great kicker in this league. For every Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker, there are dozens of kickers who cannot be trusted in pressure situations. Finding a truly elite kicker is like finding a needle in a haystack, and the Cowboys already have one. They need to do whatever it takes to keep him. And I want to address something that I have been seeing a lot in the comments and on social media, because there are some fans out there who are saying things like, "Just let him go, we can find another kicker." And I have to tell you, that is one of the most short-sighted takes I have ever heard. Do you remember what life was like before Brandon Aubrey? Do you remember the kicking carousel that the Cowboys were on for years? Do you remember all the missed field goals, all the shanked extra points, all the games that were lost because the kicker could not do his job? I remember, and it was painful to watch. The Cowboys went through kicker after kicker, trying to find someone who could be consistent and reliable, and they could never find that guy until Aubrey came along. So the idea that you can just easily replace him is laughable to me. You cannot just go out and find another Brandon Aubrey. Players like him do not grow on trees. He is a special talent, and the Cowboys need to treat him as such. Let me also talk about the precedent that this contract could set. Because if Brandon Aubrey does end up getting the record-breaking deal that he is looking for, it is going to change the kicker market across the entire NFL. Other elite kickers are going to look at that contract and say, hey, If Aubrey is getting that kind of money, then I should be getting that kind of money too. It could potentially drive up the price for kickers across the league. And that is something that every team is going to have to deal with. But honestly, I think that is a good thing. Kickers have been undervalued and underpaid for far too long in this league. They are asked to make the most pressure-packed plays in the game, and they do it with the entire world watching. One miss, and they are the villain. One make, and they are the hero. That kind of pressure deserves to be compensated fairly. And I think Brandon Aubrey getting a record-breaking contract would be a step in the right direction for kickers everywhere. Now, let me give you my personal take on what I think the Cowboys should do here, because I know you guys want to hear my opinion. I think the Dallas Cowboys need to pay Brandon Aubrey whatever he is asking for. Period. End of discussion. I do not care if it is $7 million a year. I do not care if it is $8 million a year. I do not care if it breaks every record in the book. You pay this man his money, because the alternative is so much worse. The alternative is going back to the kicking wasteland that the Cowboys lived in for years. The alternative is watching Aubrey drill game-winning field goals for another team while your new kicker is out there missing 35-yarders. That is not a future that any Cowboys fan should want, and it is not a future that Jerry Jones should be willing to accept. Yes, the money is significant, and yes, it will impact the salary cap, but there are ways to structure a deal that minimizes the cap hit in certain years. That is what good front offices do. They find creative ways to make deals work, and the Cowboys need to get creative here because losing Brandon Aubrey would be an absolute disaster for this franchise. I also want to point out something that I think a lot of people are overlooking in this discussion, and that is the impact that Brandon Aubrey has beyond just his field goal percentage. This guy changes the way opposing teams have to plan for the Cowboys. When you have a kicker who can knock it through from 60-plus yards, that changes your entire offensive game plan. You do not have to be as aggressive on fourth down, because you know you have a kicker who can make it from almost anywhere on the field. It gives your offense more flexibility, it gives your coaching staff more options, and it puts more pressure on the opposing defense, because they know that even if they hold the Cowboys to a long field goal attempt, Aubrey is probably going to make it anyway. That kind of impact is hard to quantify on a stat sheet, but it is incredibly valuable, and it is one of the reasons why I think Aubrey deserves every penny he is asking for. Before I wrap up, I just want to say one more time how important this situation is for the Dallas Cowboys going forward. Brandon Aubrey is not just a kicker. He is a game changer. He is a weapon, and he is the kind of player that you build around. Losing him would set this franchise back in ways that a lot of people do not even realize right now. So Cowboys fans, let's hope that Jerry Jones does the right thing and pays this man what he deserves, because if he does not, we are all going to regret it. That is going to do it for today's video. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the love and support. You guys show this channel every single day. It truly means the world to me. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.